back to the Fox Robbins Business Show. This show is all about developing your very best business ideas. We supposed to help, encourage, talk about issues, all issues, large, small, and in between, regarding small business. And I'm the co-host, Bill Fox, and the other co-host is the incandescent, incendiary, and illustrious Coach Robbins.
Mr. Bill, how are you?
Coach, we're going to talk about...
Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dunkin' Donuts, for putting up $1 million to sponsor the show. Bill and I will be splitting that. We'll cut you in, Dan. He's in the booth.
We've got a... Today, we want to talk about teams. Not about individual achievement, but about teams and how teams function in a business environment. And a great article by Aaron Stannard, 7 Traits of Effective Teams. Coach, the first thing we're going to do is cover communication. Of all things, communication is a key to all things, large and small. Great communication on teams, Coach, is important. Maybe the author says maybe the foremost problem of all teams.
When I was teaching at the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, and I was the industry liaison, we reached out to the business community and asked them, when we send you MBA graduates, what is missing in their capabilities? Without a doubt, communication skills need to be improved. And these are young men and women who are going into the business world, many of them after having some experience before they went and got their MBA. Mm-hmm. But the overwhelming was communication skills, both written and oral. They need to be seriously improved. And so the university really did take steps to do that with writing seminars and public speaking training. And teamwork is huge in the business world today. So many things are done by certain types of teams, cross-functional teams, teams that get together for a specific project and then disband after that thing is done. The business world, the bigger business world, certainly a lot of things are done with teams because, 5 heads are better than 1.
Right.
If they run them away, this gentleman says they should run them, and I hope they do.
Now, communication would include, the members of the team to speak out, ask questions, limit the, he has a point here, limit the assumptions. I'm going to ask you about that. Write it down, make liberal use of charts and diagrams. Do you agree with this list?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, somebody on the team should be either formally named as a facilitator of the team or the leader of the team or whatever. It can't be a completely headless team. It's a self-managing team up to a point sometimes. Mm-hmm. And the job of the facilitator is not to make assumptions, as the author says, limit assumptions. The job of the facilitator is that they understand the problem that they're working on. They brainstorm, limit assumptions, many ideas, pick a few ideas, talk about them, and then, of course, set forth a plan to execute whatever they've just described. Use of charts and diagrams, those things are very, very important because human beings are visual. Right. We see pictures in our mind. If I say to you elephant, you see a big floppy-eared, big-nosed thing. You don't see the word elephant. So pictures and diagrams. And Woody Guthrie was right. Pictures with arrows and notes on the back. Remember that song?
No. No, there was
Alice's Restaurant.
Oh, Alice's
You
Restaurant.
folks remember Alice's Restaurant.
What did you think? For instance, this thing, write it down, is one of my favorites because if you had a nickel for every meeting that ever occurred in the business world, you'd be fabulously rich. And you'd also,
So would the companies that are wasting
So
money on
meetings-
meetings that don't get anything done.
the thing about meetings is that you walk away and within an hour, you forgot 80% of what
And
went on.
nothing was decided, nothing is done, there's no deadline, and nobody wrote anything down, and nobody assigned anybody to do anything. And therefore, what I say is, don't hold the damn meeting.
Yeah.
That's all.
So write it down. But the limit assumptions, how do you take that? The author says limit assumptions, meaning meaning deal with facts.
Deal with facts,
Deal with
objective
information,
statements, and
objectives.
keep an open mind.
Right.
It's okay to go in with your own ideas, but it's okay to bring up your own ideas, but
One thing
just
about
limit.
assuming everyone knows what's going on, don't make that assumption.
You know what happens with assume. Can't say that this is a family show.
Yeah.
Make an ass out of you and me.
Right.
The heck with it.
Now, the next thing is extensive collaboration. The author says, well, great teams are not authoritarian. You mentioned leadership a minute
Right.
ago.
Minimal leadership, guidance is a better word, I guess. Leadership is okay. I think leadership is important.
Right. By the way, I forgot on that communication thing, I was going to say that, about speaking out, asking questions, and so forth. I think way back when I was fresh out of college and went to a business meeting, and it was supposed to be one where department heads would report on their activities or what was going on, or raise questions, and enunciate problems, and all that kind of sort of stuff. And so I'm there. First department head has a report, says X, Y, Z. Second department head has a report, so they're good. Come to the third guy, said, okay, Fred, what about you? And Fred, this guy Fred looked around the group and said, so far, so good. I had to tell you that story.
I love it.
I bring it up because I was fresh out of school, and I
Yeah.
thought everything worked properly in business,
Yeah, boy, you were in for a surprise.
But that doesn't constitute speaking out very well.
I don't think so. I don't think he was very specific or objective.
and communicating. So back to the collaboration, great teams are not authoritarian, meaning that their teams should not be totally and fully dominated by someone in charge, or even in charge of that team or in charge of the company necessarily. That all members should be able to give feedback.
Yeah, they have to give feedback. You want to hear from everybody or they shouldn't be on the team.
Right.
And it's up to one person to be a facilitator to make sure that A, no one person dominates, and B, everybody does speak and put forth an opinion on whatever problem you're trying to solve.
Right. I think one thing about this, I see if it's on the list or not, is one of my bugs about meetings. It's easy for people to say, oh, great, there's a meeting, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, right.
Well, okay, you don't say that, but you think,
Yeah, but you're sitting there saying, I'll just
gee,
go
that's
in.
great for the next hour.
I'll sit there for an hour and then leave and go get lunch.
I warm up the chair. In a business environment, as far as I'm concerned, it should be made clear that you come to that meeting prepared, or you better be prepared to be shot otherwise.
Well, and I agree with that 100%, and if I'm going to come to a meeting, I want to be prepared, and if I'm going to go to a meeting, then tell me what the heck I'm preparing,
Yeah.
and what this meeting is about.
Right.
And I want an agenda 2 days, 48 hours in advance, because I've actually been in places, and I'll leave them unnamed, where, hey, it's time for our monthly meeting. About what?
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about? What, just regurgitate a bunch of crap and then leave? Sorry, I'm not coming, right?
Yeah.
The older I get, the worse I get.
all members of a team should give feedback.
Mm-hmm.
All members should feel comfortable to express himself or herself, whatever.
There's no wrong ideas. I think everything should come out. That's why you keep judgment away from this at this point, where it's not time for judgment. It's time for evaluating even evaluating the problem. Remember what we spoke on one show, I said, Albert Einstein, you know him, genius, good show. If you've got 20 minutes to solve a problem, spend 19 minutes discussing the problem. Okay.
And here's an important point. All members, own a part of the team ideas and initiatives. I mean, you don't sit in silence and go away and say, well, no one asked me, or I wasn't.
If I'm on that team, even if I'm not the facilitator, and I see Bill sitting there and he's not saying anything, he's not doing anything, I will jump in and say, Bill, what do you think? Yeah. I think, we were discussing this before and blah, 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 and then silence and let Bill talk. Right. Bring Bill out of his shell. Not that I need to bring you out of your shell.
Yeah. And the next idea for teams initiative is managers that would be managers or business owners would love people who would pick up the ball and run forward with it. That's always great. And great teams have members with new ideas, also members who perform analysis and research, and proactive members increase the overall team energy. So initiative, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what the team is. It should be full of initiative. It should be innovative. I mean, you're gathering for a reason, I hope, or don't gather in a very specific reason. And usually, it's not always, but here's a problem. We're trying to do something better. It may not be the worst definition of problem, but we're discussing some issue here, and we're trying to come up with some action plan. I would hope that a team is meeting, putting together an action plan to make things better, to do something, not just report minutes of the last meeting, and then the next minute you get the minutes of the previous meeting, and who the hell cares, These minutes of the meeting stuff drive me nuts sometimes too. Yeah. It's just the minutes of the last meeting, and now the minutes of this meeting go forward to the minutes of the next meeting because it's the monthly meeting. About what?
Yeah. It is great to go away from that feeling that there are members of that. If you have a good team, the members will go away from that and get things done.
Well, that's the whole idea. And who's responsible to do which piece? And by when are they going to get it done? Yeah. And hopefully before the next meeting. Well, not necessarily, but there should be some progress before the next meeting, and that should be reported on, not, well, here's what we talked about in the last meeting.
And team members who perform analysis and research, that's part of that idea I was mentioning before about being prepared for the next meeting.
Right.
If you're doing research and analysis, say, at the next meeting, Coach Robbins is going to come back to us about, the X, Y, or Z, problem and so forth, and you are prepared.
Yeah.
When you come back.
That's the whole idea. I had a meeting yesterday, and I have a client that's looking at $50 million of potential to build a plant of tax-exempt bonds. Might be a new way to fund it. And she asked me how much I knew about it, and I said probably less than she does, and she doesn't know anything. But I said I will be prepared for the next meeting next week. Right. And I already began at 5 o'clock this morning doing some more research. I mean, I have a slight bit of knowledge about it, but I'm going to get a lot more knowledge by doing the research I need to do and educating myself. And quite frankly, I enjoy that. Right. I enjoy looking at something new and figuring out what the heck is this all about.
Right. And visionary, not the old blinders part. A team should have visionary. That's called, it's an overused term, forest for the trees. But,
it's thinking out of the box is another overused term. But yeah, people who are innovatory. Innovatory is a little different. Innovative, it's a little bit more aggressive, and I like that. Right. Just coming up with some new ideas and generating new ideas and looking at problems in a different way. The Japanese, of course, Kaizen, right. Incremental improvements over a period of time, and just think differently. Approach, like I said, approach a problem differently. But what is the problem? What really is the problem? And then we come up with some unique solutions.
Right. And visionary see forest for the trees. They see a visionary team would see how to relate details, back to the big picture, and anticipate problems in advance if possible.
Well, it's nice because there's no sense in waiting until the ship hits the sand. I said that correctly. It's okay for TV. It's nice to say, oh my God, there's sand out there. Maybe we ought to think now about how to avoid that sandbar and look at our charts. And now I'm speaking in a maritime term. I do teach at Mass Maritime. And, avoid the problem, to look ahead and say, okay, I think you may not even run into it, but what if we did? And that's not a bad thing to have a meeting about. If this happens, then we have this alternative to it. As the Marines call it, a bug-out route.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah. Okay. We're going to go in, we're going to attack, we're going to do this, but if you know what, the ship hits the sand, this is how we get out of there.
Anticipating problems, that's what, if a team is going back to the communications, and the team is not simply authoritarian, just dominated by one person, and if they feel that they're contributing, they're analyzing, they're thinking, they will anticipate a problem and
right.
say,
you want to head up. I mean, why wait until you run into the brick wall? See, hey, there could be a brick wall around the horizon. Well, if there is, what are we going to do about it? Well, we go over it, under it, or around it.
The next on the docket for a team would be adaptability, Coach. A poor team. The opposite would be that a poor team would resist change at all costs. You've seen that, I assume.
The Italian word for it is gabadost, thickhead. Which goes back to slide 1, which is talking about limit your assumptions. I mean, we all come into experiences, situations with our life experiences, and we have opinions, and but just keep an open mind and be ready to change. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's really a dumb statement.
Or
it really is.
One of your favorites. We've always done it that way.
That is my least favorite. I just ran into that, and I won't say where. Oh, we always do it this way. Well, that's a stupid way to do it. There are many better ways to do it, and we really have to continue to do it that way when I don't think it's the right way, and neither does everybody else who's doing it. Could somebody just open up their mind just a little bit, and limit the bureaucracy and make some changes around here?
Right.
And then you get no response.
A great team would embrace change. Great teams are learning.
Yep.
Learning teams. Well, that may not sound like much, but that is a
huge.
huge item.
It's huge.
This learning.
You're going to learn. What I say is, make the change if you think it's prudent, and it's okay if you make a mistake, because you'll learn from the mistake too. So a lot of times we say, make small mistakes, just make them faster, and you'll learn from them very quickly. I tell my students all the time, take the quiz. I give them a quiz every week online on Blackboard. If you get a great grade the first time, don't not take the quiz a second time. Take it a second time. I only take your highest score because it's a learning opportunity. I know when you take the quiz the first time, I tell them you're sitting there with the textbook. Don't kid me, and I don't mind that. So you get your good grade, you get your 98 or whatever, but take the second quiz, take it again. Only this time just test your own knowledge, and when you see you got something wrong, you will learn from that. You can learn a lot from mistakes. Believe me, I have learned a lot in my life because I've screwed up just about everything, okay? And I've got scars, and I won't do that again, and I won't let my clients do that again. Right. They call it experience, but it's experience we survived,
If you can stop the bleeding.
Yeah, Nietzsche said that which does not kill us only serves to make us stronger.
Yeah.
So, okay, make some nice little mistakes, make them fast, and boy, you'll be wicked smart at the end of the process.
The author says a great team would do new things that have not been done before.
That's the whole idea.
A lot of people get scared by that too.
Most people are afraid of change,
yeah.
and that's a really bad thing. Discuss it, take a shot at it. Like I say, the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Guess what? if it ain't broke, somebody else might do something different and fix you by putting you out of business because you didn't pay attention to what was happening and you got stuck. And Peter Drucker said, if you're doing the same thing 5 years from now, you're probably going out of business. All words to that effect. Brilliant, gentlemen.
The next item on running a good team is that a good team is constructive.
Not destructive?
A poor team might insert ego into teamwork. Poor teams do not correct errors. Poor teams do not accept constructive criticism. Good teams produce the best work possible, and good teams eliminate errors rather than preserve egos.
Yep.
Does that all make sense to you?
Absolutely, all of it. Poor teams, sometimes you do get a very dominant personality. I know you can't tell by this show, but I'm really not a dominant personality, particularly in teams. And I want to make sure nobody is a dominant personality. And look, the whole idea is we're trying to do things a better way, all right? And go ahead. This is a problem, this is something we need to fix, or why the hell are we meeting, of course. And we really want to do the best work we can as a team with everybody participating and moving forward to try a different solution.
Yeah.
And by the way, it may not work, which brings us to the next meeting, which said, this didn't work, here's why it didn't work.
Yeah.
And how do we fix that? And you're learning as you go. Double loop learning, but I don't have enough time to go into double loop learning, but it's a great process. Go ahead, make mistakes.
And organized teams, good teams are organized. Good teams are highly organized, according to the author. Good teams have standard procedures. Good teams keep records. That's getting.
Oh yeah, write it down, and
Good teams plan projects carefully. Good teams measure progress, and good teams measure ROI.
Yep.
That ROI thing. You and I talked recently about that on one of our shows. We talked about going to trade shows.
Right.
And go and set up your booth, attend, come back home, fold everything up, put it back in the closet, and then keep going as if nothing took place.
So you blew the money.
Did
and
you
you
get an
don't
ROI? You went. You just spent time, your money. You diverted from doing other things, getting other things done, for the sake of being, at a trade show. But did you get a return on investment, from that?
Right.
Do you even care? Did you
But
look?
everybody should care,
You
including the person who's gone to. He should care. She should care that there is something that's going to be better for having spent the time and the effort. The one I'm thinking of that's going through my head. First of all, teams form, norm, storm, perform. It's an old. They form. They figure out how they're going to do things. They get into a little bit of conflict. Conflict's not a bad thing. A little bit of conflict really does make things better. But when they get through those 3 stages, then they really start to become high-performing teams. They're highly organized. They know how to do. They want to operate, and they get stuff done.
Right.
I'm thinking of. I just recently read that if you want to, you graduate from business school, hopefully with something, not a bachelor of nothing. And you work for a few years, say 3, 4, 5 years, and then you want to go back and you want to get an MBA. And so you go to a good school, hopefully, and you're going to spend 2 years, most people, getting an MBA, and you're going to spend anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 in tuitions, which is an opportunity cost. And of course, you're going to forego 2 years of income, full-time income anyway, even if you work part-time. So what's the ROA going to be on $250,000 investment over those 2 periods, and over what period of time are you going to get it? It will be decent, I'm sure. But there's an opportunity cost that was given up. There's an direct cost, to go to school. What's the ROI going to be? That's what you have to evaluate.
And let's summarize everything that we've gone over.
This is a great chart.
A summary: good team, poor team. The good team will organize. It would communicate. So there is, a team. We're not saying that a team doesn't have a leader, are we? We're not saying
Absolutely
that.
not, no. There could be several leaders under different circumstances, a leader, a facilitator, whatever you want to call them. No, a good team does have somebody who will do some guidance, and it can change from meeting to meeting. Hey, today, Bill, I want you to facilitate this thing. And on that basis, quite frankly, you might not participate as much, but you want to make sure everybody else is participating, everybody else is coming up with good ideas. Somebody else could be the scribe writing down the ideas that are and the solutions and the problems that you're coming up with.
Right.
So yeah, it should be organized, and of course everything's about communication.
Well, in a small business, that team leader might well, of course,
Be the whole
be
company.
the owner,
It'd be the owner who's leading it, certainly.
but maybe not. I mean, if it's a
Not necessarily.
if it's a growing business and instead of just being a one-man or one or two-person show, if you had 8 or 10 or 12 people, let's say, it would be easy to see a business owner delegating. Maybe there's a team,
Right,
and the business owner is not
right.
necessarily the team leader.
Yeah, I had 5 different locations at one point in my electrical distribution business, and the team leader with the general manager of the EC, even if I sat in on a meeting because I was invited to or because I asked to be invited, they led the meeting. It's their meeting, not mine.
Okay, the good teams communicate, they adapt, they collaborate with one another, they innovate, they're thinking of coming up with fresh ideas, they plan well, execute, and challenge each other.
They do, yeah. Innovation is the whole idea behind teamwork, quite frankly. The reason 5 heads are better than one, by coming up with new ideas and, executing, getting things done, and making everything better for the company.
And that poor team is reflexive, it's command-driven, authoritative.
Those days are dead. The command-driven, that's for the Army and the Marines, not in the business world. There are a lot of bright people in the business world that don't need a commander, quite frankly. They need somebody that they can work with. They need leadership, certainly, and that leadership may change from meeting to meeting.
Right. Well, thank you for being with us, going over teams, thinking about and organizing and executing teams within a business. Very, very, very important. Please feel free to communicate with Fox Robbins Show on the internet. Send us an email to foxrobbins@gmail.com. Make that a clean comment, by the way.
Well, they do.
Yeah. And thank you for watching, and we will see you guys next time.